Welcome everyone to episode, I can't believe it, 22 of Owning Her Health. This is Dr. Lisa, your host, and I want to let you know that this episode was really inspired by a call out on another goddess group. I wanted to find some lady leaders who were looking to speak and become a little bolder and a little braver. And out came my guest today, Kim Wojnowich. And what a blessing it was. She's here in Charlotte. I'm so excited because her story and I think where she's going is very similar to mine. So hopefully we'll be able to collaborate and do things in the future. But her particular story is nice because we're seeing where her daughter was actually her wise guide. And the story of her daughter's illness brought out that fiery maiden in her, brought out, out of that mama bear, that mama guru kind of need, really showed her who she was, not only as a mom, but took some of, she had gotten a master's degree originally, but, had been here and there with it. And it literally, that mothering flame went really into that maiden fire that she had for her interest in health, and now produced a business that she never even knew she was a business person for. So I think that her shares on that and that evolution is really great. About 3 minutes into it, we get into how that shifted for her, how her passion and her mission sort of crisscrossed from being a mom-centered mompreneur, and then now even a speaker. We have our little power talk on mompreneur about 5 minutes or so into it, and Kim shares a wonderful new path she's having now. I think she said for the past 6 months or so, where her seeing herself grow, and this is where I just love that universe sort of brings the right people together at the right time for the right conversation, because she was finding her her lady boss and living boldly, and now wants to flip that to even be a bigger stage. So whereas she can now sit comfortably where she built this business, which is not only helping the health of her children, but her family's financial health through her multi-level marketing company. But she's actually going out now and sharing it to be bigger and brighter and bolder. And I just love that. I love that because that's what we're all about here with the Guru Goddess Tribe. She gives some key personal insights into what she needed to see to do that. And so listen in around 14 minutes in or so. And one of the key takeaways at that point was how she started to flip. A lot of mothers, and I can relate, we are concerned that us being selfish, quote unquote, selfish with our time and our health to ourselves is something where it doesn't blend and doesn't allow us to be selfless and of selfless service. I know that some people are brought up, even in our certain religions and things like that, to this selfless service where almost we get so absorbed in the martyrdom of it that we literally are making ourselves sick. And so we had a great talk on that, like I said, around 14 minutes in or so. We finished our talk with Kim sharing her tough love tip of the day around 22 minutes, which make sure you listen, because that's if you listen to this podcast normally, you'll know that was no news to me, but I think that you need to hear it. And we have a really great little side tangent towards the end about what men need to know in this conversation. And that's really important to me with these goddess chats. I want to feature the women because I think it's not excluding men and saying don't use it, but we have our own masculine. We have our own way of carrying the masculine vibe. And I think that men, hopefully, if they're listening to this or if you are inspired by this, share this with your husbands, share this with your sons. Because what, Kim and I spoke about is that they need to recognize the feminine leadership style so that they can see it. It's very hard to see something when you've just never really even conceptualized it being, when you've lived in a bubble, when you don't even know. I think of the story the movie, what is it, when Horton sees a who, right? And to the little who's living on that little flower puff, that is their world. They don't even understand there's a Horton out there. And I think a lot of times for women who are trying to bring in this modern feminism, we sometimes forget they are just they just have never seen it, and which is what me and Kim were speaking of. We need to live braver and bolder and more courageously to shine because of that. People treat us the way we teach them to treat us, and we have to remember that piece. So while yes, there is oppression and there's things that it's a different story now, and we really kind of talk a little bit about that. So definitely listen in to today's episode of Owning Her Health right now.
Welcome to this episode of Owning Her Health with your host, Dr. Lisa Holland, PT. Join Lisa as she starts the conversation on what it really takes to become a healthy, wealthy, and whole CEO of your life. Listen in to real talk by real lady leaders in all walks of life as they open up on personal health stories, wealth, career, and feminine abundant living. Learn how to grow by owning your body, expanding your mind, and aligning your soul with the purpose only you can pursue in this world. Happiness begins with owning her health right now.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Owning Her Health. So glad that you're joining us for this episode. I am really excited to have a new friend, hopefully. We kind of internet spoke about wanting to find some people that are in this realm and in this conversation. Kim Wojnowich, thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you let us know a little bit about a little summary of who you are, what you're doing, how you're owning your health right now.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of what you're doing. It's fantastic, the message that you're sending out to women. And so I'm super thrilled to be here. So who I am, I have actually been in the health field, honestly, my whole career. I got a master's degree in health education 20 plus years ago and have done various and sundry things in the health and wellness field. And what took a shift was 4 years ago, actually, my oldest daughter, who's now 14, out of the blue got very sick. And long story short, which I won't go into the detail, she was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And because of my health background, and something about it's not just that I have a health background, something within my health background has quite honestly always plagued me and my family, because we are all in this together, is that we don't eat the same food that our grandparents ate. The food we eat isn't loaded with nutrition. The trace minerals that keep us healthy are gone.
Right.
And we're bombarded with toxins, right? We walk outside, we bathe, we even when we eat organic, we get a level of toxins. And I always used to joke with my husband, like, what are we supposed to do? Like, grow our own food? I don't even like to water plants. Like, this is not something I can do something about. And then we saw Food Inc., which is probably now, I mean, it's so old. Well, that was like 12 years ago, I think, when we saw it. And I was paralyzed with like sadness and fear. So when my daughter got sick, it was a natural thought of mine to say, how can nutrition help her? I get how medicines will help her, but how can nutrition help her? And then honestly, I have a mother with an autoimmune disease who's been on some serious medications, and they were mentioning the same ones. And so my first thought with a 10-year-old with a chronic illness was no.
Right.
No, not certainly without me fighting this battle a heck of a long time, not just saying okay. And so I really started researching nutrition and how nutrition could help. And I researched an anti-inflammatory diet, and all of that made such sense, except for the part where it's not really reasonable for her to eat like that long-term for the rest of her life, as it's not long-term. It's not reasonable for us as adults. It's certainly not reasonable.
It's really
right?
hard. Yes.
It's so hard. So what are you going to tell her to eat, like greens all day? Like what I was looking at is not eat healthy. And someone taught me the food guide pyramid, and I laughed because that's what I used to teach people. And I was like, wait, are you for real teaching me the food guide pyramid? That's what my job used to be this. I didn't tell her because I felt at the time if I told her it wasn't going to come out nicely. So I just didn't say anything. But so long story, I found a nutritional system that had everything I was looking at and how we would do this, but in a really simple system. And I don't know if you want me to, if it's cool to say what that is.
Whatever you want, so, however you're rocking it.
Okay, well, I'm sure many of your listeners would have certainly heard of isogenics, but that's what we delved into with our family. And the nutrition made such sense to me. I couldn't wait to try it. I said to her, I'm not looking for some cure for you. What I'm looking for is to keep you off these higher medications and just start with this super basic low dose and never talk about the others. I don't want to talk about the others. And so that was almost 4 years ago. She has been in remission for 3 years. We've, knock on wood, we don't talk about any of those other medications. She lives a super healthy life. She is an athlete. She is brilliant. She just racked up at her 8th grade awards ceremony last night. She's a brilliant kid and won amazing awards. So, and our family loves it. And I built a business because I knew I had people to help, and it was a solution to things that I've always worried about. So from that, I built a network marketing business, but one, because I'm helping people, not because I'm just, a network marketer out there trying to make some money. It's amazing money for a mompreneur. I mean, I get to stay home with my kids.
And you're bringing in such a good point. Like, I really feel there's like that untapped potential. Moms in general are just such awesome, are just what we have to do in our daily life really brings in that entrepreneur. I mean, you really are an entrepreneur when you're trying to figure out, what to do between, 4 little things in the refrigerator, a kid crying, and, like you're creating, you're making something out of nothing. You're going on, heartfelt mission and vision, and you're doing that thing, and you're working, you're hustling, it just, a lot of women, I think, go to these network marketing, but even beyond that, they don't think, I know as a health care provider, it's really hard sometimes for me to help them think bigger with what they could do with their skills and make some, they think if they're not in the clinic, they're not being a physical therapist, or if they're not on a yoga mat, they can't use, their yoga training or yoga therapy, or, even like physicians, so like I have to teach because I can't be treating in the clinic. And it's like, you have all this information. And then if you're a mom on top of it, it's very powerful. It sounds like, Kim, that you have like a tremendous lineage of really kind of strong women. And I don't know how much you're into the whole mind, body, kind of soul, Louise Hay kind of, you can make yourself sick as well kind of mindset. But in my experience, something like with your daughter, does she tend to be kind of sensitive? Because I almost feel like that's like a lesson. You get the lesson of the young girl. She taught you. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. She taught you. You kind of got that. She kind of switched your mind and how you were working, and now she like was a flame for your new sort of career.
It totally was. It's funny that you tap into that with barely knowing me, because one thing that we say in our house is, well, of course, nobody would ever wish their child to be sick in a million years. I always tell her the truth is I'm grateful the way it all went down. And the story that I tell is this is a common thing that people say. And when Zoe was sick, people kept saying to me, there's a reason, things happen for a reason. And I was so angry back then. And I thought, and I would make fun of those people just to get through it. I use humor a lot as a
right, whatever you do. Yeah.
So I would use a little humor and a little bad language, because that's always fun too, right? And be like, who says that?
Right.
Like, what kind of crap is that, And then the truth is they were all right. Every one of them was right. And things do happen for a reason. And I learned so much from her. She was so strong back then. And now it led me to this ability to help so many other people, help other people become that mompreneur and build their business. And then honestly, in the last 6 months, I've branched out a whole nother avenue out of this. And we were talking about earlier is my brand now is Living Boldly. And I want to teach everyone to be bold in their life, whether that's taking charge of their health. It has to be taking charge of their health first and foremost before anything else. Really, there's nothing more important. and taking charge of their life, and like what you just said, owning that you could do so much with your skills, but you have to be bold to pay attention to what they are, and open. You have to be open that you have to make these decisions, because your doctor probably isn't going to tell you about this nutrition, and if you're going to be a mompreneur, somebody isn't going to fall from the sky and say, you should go do this.
Right.
I want women to be bold and realize, like, these are your decisions. Every decision is your decision. Your doctor doesn't. I love her doctors. I'm not ever to say anything badly, but not about nutrition. That was on me. That was
right.
On me.
And it is because they're not taught. I mean, the allopathic line is, I mean, I love that people don't realize, but like Christiane Northrup, who is like a leader in, one of like people who are on Oprah, and an OBGYN leader in kind of this mind, body, medicine, women, goddess kind of thing. She says, it was like heresy to be like, let's just give them better food, and that wasn't that long ago. It's not like that was 1950. That was 1990. Like that was, and even, 12 years into my business with Belly Guru, being here in the Bible Belt, I mean, I was just like opening up a yoga thing coming from New York, and just even that understanding. I had to open up my own wellness center because they didn't understand yoga therapy. They only understood it as a booty burn or a stretch class. So much has happened in the past decade. And it's really interesting how sometimes, I might say, like you're saying, your little angel sort of told you, they shift you into some voices you may not even be hearing inside. I believe that we always have our inner child, our kind of maiden, fiery kind of go-getter girl, our mothering kind of vibe, and then that wise matriarch. I don't think you necessarily need to be a certain age. I think some people come in really wise souls. I would expect to think that your daughter is one of them, to be given such a handle to take on so early in life, because she was there to push you for whatever else you're going to do. And then once that was done, she's done with her thing there, her illness or whatever. But we have that inside of us. So is there some resistance that you felt like you almost had to come over? Like why didn't you do that years ago? What did it take with her illness or that voice sort of talking to talk to you in a different way that maybe you weren't listening to now that you look back? Like when you were a young child, actually, you kind of really were into that, but you went a different route, or maybe even before you were mom and you identified yourself so much with mom that you didn't pursue that path. What was there anything like this?
It was flat out not knowing it existed, to be honest. I always, like I said earlier, had the concern of the food we eat, the toxins. I always had the concern. But then I used to make the jokes. Well, what would I do about it? Have a cat, grow my own food. There was never a solution that seemed reasonable to me. So I would just joke about it, be concerned, and then slough it off and bury it, because what can you do? Stay concerned. So what do we do when we can't fix something? We just shove it. And so when she got sick, I was like, well, there you go. There's no more shoving it down. There's no more burying it. We got to find a solution. So it took a crisis to make me do the research to find what existed. And when I found it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the answer of how I can help people. And in a way, and stop feeling so helpless. Like, I mean, I taught the food guide pyramid for years and years and years, like I said, but there's always but so much that's going to help people if the nutrition's not there. So it was just a matter of the crisis making me go in research mode that I wouldn't have gone in otherwise, opening the door to something I didn't know existed. Yeah. And then turning into a business person. Didn't know that existed in me. Didn't know.
Right.
I've always been a health person. I've been talking to people about motivating them to change their health my entire career. I didn't know a business person was in here.
Right. And that's what's so beautiful. Like, when we stay quiet and we can try to listen, I think that's probably what drove me to the yoga, because I knew it was for, because I kind of like underline yoga or yogic philosophy. It's really yogic life coaching into everything and weaving it, because that's what it's about, that like needing to be quiet. Like how can we teach our daughters, how can we teach our daughters to like listen in, listen in before the crisis. Of course, we're always going to hear that crisis, but I almost, I feel like it's so hard, because especially as maybe when they're young girls, But like once you start getting into puberty and teen, they're constantly fighting. They're looking at you. You're their first mirror of womanhood. No matter how much they like it or you like it, you know, you're kind of it, and they're figuring out how much of you they want to shine from, how much they don't want to shine from. Do you have any thoughts now going through, you know, what you went through? Like if you could tell yourself the person you were, let's say, 6 years ago, something that.
Well, if I could go back 6 years, I think one of the biggest things that's helped me in the past too is I've done a lot of work, and this is also what I'm doing some speaking on moving forward for women, is on not comparing yourself to others. And why I'm so passionate about the Live Boldly is because when I look back at my patterns, when there was something going on, I needed to fix it. That has definitely been my patterns. And so what I recognized is that now I have a tool to help people with their health, but I have my own pattern that I want to inspire women to find their patterns. And I find that a lot of women, especially moms, if we're talking about mompreneurs, take on that job of mompreneur in a way that means take care of everyone but themselves, and it feels selfish to take care of yourself, whether it's your health or pursuing your business. And so one of the things I want to do in my speaking and coaching is inspire women. It's not selfish, because truthfully, your children, your husband, if you have one, your wife, whatever your family dynamic is, they just want you to be happy, and the happier and the better you are, the better mom you are. Right. And so what I've watched is my kids and my husband will say, you having this thing that you do that you love, that you're passionate about, that you thrive on, it helps us at home because you're so happy, and you're teaching that to the girls, and I love that they see it. And so
yeah, that is so beautiful, because I think we don't value that enough. Like to do whatever job we're doing with a sense of value. That's not always necessarily the masculine, you know, dollar bill or external validation. It's that I had another conversation on another podcast. I think it was episode 16 with Maria Gramel, and she was talking about like she didn't, you know, because you're not bringing in that paycheck the same or whatever, you think you're doing your little yoga classes, you think you're doing your little health coaching, you think we almost like put that on, must be on the side. And then we don't bring the energy and the flow to it, because we've literally manifested it to stay, you know, on the side. And like you said, I mean, every kid just wants to see that happiness and joy, and they like when their mom looks like she's bright and light. They really, I mean, I tell my clients all the time, people don't want to hear what you have to, they don't want to listen to you, but they sure as hell want what you have. And so if you can shine it, all of a sudden people are like, I want a little of that. And it's like the firefly in the summer night, and everybody flocks to that one first firefly in the night. So I think those talks you're going to do are going to be so just empowering and helpful, because that is the message. You know, I give that same message, but like they're already sick. You know, a lot of people enter into me already hormones all over the place already, you know, maybe they'll think it's menopause, but it's actually the past 20 years of burning out their adrenals, so they have no estrogen left to pick up the slack when their ovaries say they're done, on to the next thing. And at that point, it's like so much of that habit and behaviors like you're talking about, it comes down to literally setting them up and being like, here is your behavioral style, here are your fears, here are your strengths. And then what the heck does that have to do with health? It's like, well, you're in really poor health because of these things.
Right.
You know, so
all connected at 100%. It's connected. And so I love that I'll always, first and foremost, no matter what I do, be passionate about the health side of what I do, because the first step in helping anyone find their strong, bold self is you first have to feel good. You first have to feel good. You can't walk around and have a great message or take on what it is that you want to do if you're exhausted and you don't feel good. And nutrition can play a huge role in that, not just, going to your doctor and saying like, well, I don't really feel good. And I mean, the standard answer is, well, you're aging. It kind of comes with the territory, which is not true.
Right. I don't know why they think that just because like there's so much science now, which is so frustrating. Because you almost want to like bring them a portfolio and be like, no offense, I really don't want to bother your ego here, but like, have you read about telomeres? Like, do you understand epigenetics? Because it's just like a denial because it doesn't fit in the system, which I think is why people like me and you sort of take that, when you have that passion, every business owner is not an entrepreneur, but like some people just kind of do a business, but it's that entrepreneurial fire that can make a great small business, big business, micro practice, hustle thing on the side, because it's that like you said, be courageous enough to believe what you believe and let other people know,
right?
Let other people hear your voice. Cause that's
right.
Owning your, you can't, your first wealth is health. And, that's such an important message that I don't really know what happens, but, it just kind of gets like, well, if I'm caring for my family, then I can't really pay mind to it. And it's actually kind of illogical.
Because
like if you're that important, I tell women all the time, I'm like, this is a reverse ego. You're having an issue at reverse ego because you keep saying, it's not important, you got it. But you're not out there being like, it's all about me, but you're almost like, it's all about like, if you really think your whole family is going to like crumble because you went to the gym 1 hour a week.
Right.
That's pretty egotistical.
Right. I've never thought about that. But it's so true. But the truth is that if you are the person also that needs to take care of the aging parent or the sick child or drive the kids in today's day and age, most of us that are parents, depending on what age you're at, I'm at the age of all the activities and everybody has their competitive sport. So when they come home at 3, I'm just getting going with part 2, driving and decisions and emotions of teenagers. And I also have an aging parent. Like nobody has just one thing. So why would I think that I shouldn't take care of myself to handle all of that? How in the world, I always say if I didn't have isogenics, I wouldn't be able to do isogenics because I wouldn't be able to manage this passion that I love and handle all of that if I didn't feel as amazing as I feel. I would be dying a slow, exhausted death trying to pull all this off. And people are used to feeling that way. So they're just settling and they're used to it, but they don't know. If I could just scream at everyone like, you don't have to.
I know, they forget. And I think it's
what they used to feel like.
It's the disconnect with like your childhood, really, that joy, that carelessness. It's like you just assume that it just dies at the point you get your period. But that's not true. You just didn't bring her voice along with you.
Mm-hmm. And you forgot.
I think it's like, what I'm hearing from you, it's like, it just is really hard in society to have that web of support that we used to in other societies where we lived with our mothers and we lived with our, our kind of communities were tribal and family based. It really comes down to figuring out who's your new tribe, like who you should keep around you. Like there's some people you should just not keep around you anymore. And who is going to come into your circle. And that career path might be it. Or if you're at home, it might be, bringing in people to something you're interested in. You don't always have to follow the crowd.
You really don't have to always follow the crowd. And we teach our children that. So why don't we do that? And the truth is making a change isn't easy, but it comes down to a little bit of tough love for every single person. So here's my tough love for the day. For the people that are listening to that, you honestly have a choice and look at your life and what is it and how do you feel and what are you doing with it? And if you're not fulfilled, then you have a choice to do something about it. But guess what? The doing something about it, it's not easy. It's not magical, and it takes work and it takes some bravery and some bold, but so worth it. But you just everyone has a choice. And when you get to a point where you're like, this is not what I wanted. I know I can feel better. I know I can have more. I know I can be more. Then what will you do about it? What will you do? And there's so many people out there to help you. That's the cool thing. There's so many coaches and people and well, I mean, I've got my nutrition system to help people on that end, but that's why I'm doing my speaking. Like there's so many people that you can find that voice that can get that can help you. You just have to have a little bit of spirit to say, I'm ready to make a change.
And I think it gets back to that reflection, because there's almost like too much noise. I think sometimes people feel so overwhelmed because there are so many voices, and the voice they never took the time to maybe sit with was theirs. Like when you're searching on the internet about a diagnosis, that's very different than saying, how do I set up a online calendar so that you know what I mean? Like when you don't really know what it is to even which coach you need. So I think like circles, and, you know, I feel very pulled to, and one of the reasons why I started this podcast is to start that conversation. Let's get back to like that women's circle and that trust and finding, you know, your tribe, your crew, you know, that's the whole idea with the Guru Goddess tribe, is like that energy of that. There'll be different fillings, and you even have that. You have that. It's just, you have some girlfriends that bring out your little girl. You have some girlfriends that bring out your inner wise one. You have some girlfriends that bring out your mothering. You got some that bring out your fire. And I think it's important to have all of them around, so that, you know, if you need that help with mom, and then so-and-so needs to be there, you just got to get somebody else for the ride that day and feel okay with that, you know, instead of being like, oh my God, so-and-so's going to have to go out of their way. If they say yes, they said yes, you know.
You surround yourself with right people. You surround yourself with people that are willing to help you and support you. And sometimes that creates a very difficult decision to not surround yourself by some people, or just to limit
your exposure, right? Like any toxin, like you were talking about. We have to, you know, sometimes it's, why give yourself that anger in your liver to process for too long?
Right.
You know?
I love it.
So what is coming on? Where can we find you, Kim? Where can we find you if, you know, this has connected with us and we want to learn more about, you know, your living boldly and all the work that you're doing?
A great question, and thanks for bringing that up. So I'm going to spell my last name for everyone listening, because if I say it, it won't do it justice. I have there's my two resources to find me. One is my website, which really talks about everything I do, from nutrition to, if anybody's interested in having me help you build a business, I'm ready to help you, or having me come out for speaking. It's my name, KimWojnowich.com. So Wojnowich is W-O-J. My husband taught me a long time ago. It's like a social security number. N-O-W-I-C-H. It's really easy. Ignore the J. So KimWojnowich.com. And then, of course, I, like everyone else, am on Facebook. And if you just search my name, I actually have two pages. My personal page is just my name, but my business page says Kim Wojnowich, Live Boldly. So if you just search my name, Live Boldly, there I am, and I'm doing live videos, and I'm posting inspirational things every day. So I would love for all the viewers and listeners to follow my Live Boldly Facebook page. I love it.
That's awesome. And I will put that in the Libsyn show notes, so they'll have a direct link.
Awesome.
Is there anything, well, I have two little questions before we finish up. What do you think we can tell, just thinking of yourself in 10 years from now? So you have your dreams, you see where you're kind of like wanting to go. What would you like to hear from her? What would you like to hear from her, the you of 10 years ago, 10 years from now?
10 years from now? Gosh. What I would love to hear is, you did it. You did it, and you have inspired hundreds of thousands of people. That's all I ever really wanted from the time that I went to college and didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew that whatever it was, I wanted to inspire people. And so if I can just continue to make that massive, I want that massive. And knowing right now, here's the thing too, and this is a mistake we all make, is waiting for the 10 years in the massive until we're proud of ourselves. And so I also want to take the time to not do that, and know, like, right now I can see that I've affected my children. My 14-year-old daughter wrote a speech for her 8th grade graduation, which is next week. And my husband and I were in tears, and it was all about not comparing yourself to other people and finding your gifts and stepping into yourself as the kids go to high school, and how they all made it through middle school. And it wasn't easy because those were the prime years where you're not actually saying what you want to say because you just want to fit in, but we're done. No more. It's time to step out. And I joked with my husband. I was like, do I get to take credit for the whole thing? Or like,
you're like, she's definitely mine. She's definitely mine.
She's definitely mine. On this moment, do I have to share any of that with you, or can I have every single bit of it all to myself? So I'm going to take the moment to be proud of who I am rubbed off on her. And he's a great dad, and he's a great husband. So I can't take all the credit, but I'm going to definitely take some of that. Okay. And if I'm wrong, I do not care. Okay, so I'm going to stop and say in 2 years that I looked back and I was really proud of the journey and proud of, I got to a place in my business where I wasn't happy because I was comparing myself to other people. I'm not the only one that does. None of us are the only ones that do.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
And thanks to social media, we could all remind ourselves of that every moment of every day if we wanted to, right? And we could live in that. And I started to do that. And then I backed up and remembered my strengths. I did probably 2 solid years now of solid personal development. You can't just make a flip decision and then all of a sudden be someone. There's growth that is attached to it. And so I did a ton of personal growth. I've read Brene Brown is really who picked me up. She was my friend who picked me up off my feet. One day I'll get to meet her and tell her that you did this for me.
Yeah.
And then it went from there, right? So I picked myself up, and that's when I created all these other goals, and they're happening. So I guess in 2 years,
That's beautiful.
I want to look back and know that I did all this and remember it and be proud along the way.
I'm hearing celebration, definitely celebration. How do you think as mothers we can teach our daughters that?
I think as mothers, the best way to teach your daughters is by doing it. And that's why I think it's so important to stop feeling like you're being selfish to take care of yourself, or selfish to have some goals and need somebody else to pick up carpool because you had a job appointment or what you were doing. I mean, I'm really fortunate that my husband really believes in what I'm doing, and he really believes in me. And so he will, jump in and pick up the kids from their practice if I'm meeting with someone. Okay, you can't go off and conquer your dreams by yourself. Not when you have a family.
Yeah.
You can't. So what my kids get to see is 2 things: me being successful and their dad respecting their mom and helping. And that's what they're growing up with. So if I could teach moms, I hope that you can get the support from home that you need to make it work, and then stop thinking that it's selfish, because it's the best thing your children, male or female, can see is you pursuing your dreams, and your husband or wife, whichever it is that listens, if men listen to you, so same back and forth, to see that support. That's the environment they're growing up with. And guess what my girls will want when they get married? And guess what they won't? So moms have to stop feeling selfish and realize you're teaching them such a huge lesson by every step that you take. It's not selfish. It's so giving. It's so giving.
Right. Because the alternative is to just teach them to basically be the martyr and kill themselves. There's really no health in that. And like I said,
it's really no health in that.
Don't teach mirror.
No, there's not. And then what's the alternative? If you don't teach them now to follow their dreams and pursue their dreams, then are you hoping like it's 1950 that they marry rich?
Right.
What's
right? Like, what are you setting them up for? Or even that self-worth. Because if that's the only thing they'll find themselves of worth or of value, and something happens to whoever their perfect partner was that they did go, because I do believe we can manifest whatever it is we feel like we need, but we can't necessarily be in control of what happens. And so, right. I do hope men are listening. I know some of my guy friends and this and that. There are guys that have stayed on the newsletter because it is that message. It's like, they have a feminine side too. Like what we've been talking about is connection, community, conversation. Those are feminine leadership attributes that men need to learn how to start recognizing so that they can see us for our grandeur. And we even, women, I feel very masculinized by my upbringing. Just, what was shown, what was it, working woman? It's like having everything, it was like impossible. And, coming into that even ourselves to say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to do this the softer way. I'm going to own it, and I'm going to celebrate it. And, if it takes me a year extra, that's cool, because who knows what would have happened if I was there at this point too soon. And that mentality and that having that faith. So thank you so much, Kim, for all of your wisdom and wise words and ways that you help. I really appreciate your conversation. And we will definitely get all of your stuff on the show notes so they can get in touch with you. Thanks so much. Have a great, great day.
Thanks for everything that you're doing. I love, love, love what you're doing. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thank you for listening into this episode of Owning Her Health with Dr. Lisa Holland, PT. To learn more about her personal and professional development service, visit her online at drlisahollandpt.com.